Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Payne and welcome back to another episode of Blu Ocean Crypto. So I want to show you guys 3 new top trophy bases that I recently made, doing some tweaking and testing with them. I did another 3 bases, I think it was a couple weeks ago now. So I always want to make sure I'm staying on top of this, giving you guys new options. Also, it's good to shake up the meta a little bit so we're not just seeing the same bases all the time. And I do have a special bonus 4th base at the end for when you guys get to the end of the video. But without further ado, let's jump right in.
I want to play.
Okay, so this is the first base I want to feature. It's called Antiair, and essentially, you can see there's the 4 Antiair in the center of the base. Now, it's interesting because right now, there's really kind of 3 main attacks that we're seeing in the meta. We're seeing the air attack, 16 to 20 whales, the rest Skyfire. We're seeing the Blaze Helicopter, one of my personal favorite. And then we're seeing the traditional, mixed brute Blaze Ranger kind of attack. Now, right now, generally with the anti-air in the middle, you're kind of protecting yourself from 2 of those attacks, the Blaze Helicopter and the anti-air. But sometimes the air attack can actually swarm the base and still get to the center. So I just want to highlight a couple things about this. Take a look at where the turret positions are, and then you can kind of see when they come into the base. So for example, if the whales are going to circle here, what's going to happen is they'll go to this turret and then they'll actually hook in and get kind of clumped up around here, similar to this side. Or even if they were to come in this direction, right? They're going to clump on the 2 turrets and then move their way here. It just gives a lot of time for the anti-air to do its job. Also, the same reason why all 4 sniper towers are actually right on top of each other, which you don't generally see, because when 2 or 3 of them are targeting anything, you'd be surprised how quick they go down. And then, of course, because we've got the sniper towers in a cluster on the top left, we've got the HQ down on the bottom right, and then the hero spread just to kind of be a little bit more annoying for Skyfires trying to get into the middle. Against the Heal Blaze attack, or the Blaze Helicopter attack, obviously the traps are super important. Feel free to mix up the traps a little bit. Maybe you want to put some on the top left so that people who've seen this base don't think they automatically know where the traps are. And then the anti-airs kind of spread equally around the base just to help stop that push. So really the idea is to get them to enter in kind of the openings and that you can see around that center compartment, take advantage of the traps. And generally, I think the only weakness of this base might be the Brute Blaze combo, but even still, it's going to be difficult for them. So moving on to the next attack, this is Box Beat. And what's really interesting about these boxes is people often call them dead zones, and there's a couple things that happen with it. They actually attract or repel boom carts. So boom carts can act pretty wonky when it comes to having these dead zones or boxes essentially with nothing in them. So it makes it very difficult because people would think automatically, oh, I'm going to come in on one of the main major corners, or centers of the base, and then the boxes deter that. So obviously, same with the trap positioning here. I did a fair bit of testing by attacking my own base to figure out where the troops generally clump up. But there is actually like 3 or 4 other really good spots for the traps too. So this is probably one of my favorite. I just like how it's a bit more unorthodox. It's a little harder to read. When things are too symmetrical, it's a little easier to assess the base, right? So I generally like unorthodox builds just because of that. Another reason why you've got like the 2 anti-air kind of clumped together in the middle and then 2 off on the side just makes it harder for air attacks to properly be able to assess how to get to the anti-air. And then of course, once again, keeping them deep for the Blaze Helicopter. And the idea is essentially to take advantage of the issue it's going to cause with the boom carts. And then say you've got a bunch of brutes attacking your base, there's a very specific path that they end up taking. Now, the next one, this one is called Center of Attention. And although it seems kind of easy to read because it is symmetrical, what's really interesting about this one, especially when you test some attacks against it, troops do not go in the pathing direction that you would think. And obviously the idea here is to get them to head into the center compartment And that's why I've doubled down on all the traps. So you can see not only am I using the double big bomb traps, I'm also using the frost trap because we really want to take out a pack of brutes. So instead of kind of the other two bases, which were really focused on the anti-air, the blaze helicopter, this one I would say is a little bit more focused on taking out that more traditional ground army. But it still has the anti-air in the center, you know, clumped up, so it makes it difficult for air attacks and the blaze helicopter. Now, you could make some adjustments. You could move some of the storages that are on the outside a little closer in, kind of where some of those collectors are, but I actually found it was a little better to deter people from that because once again, we really want them to funnel. Now, another thing too that you might think is, say there are troops coming in from these sides, you know, will they actually loop around and go in? Most of the time, yes. But even if they don't, let's say they take out these cluster of defenses and then they end up breaking the wall and coming in, they will have to cross down. Same with over here, they will have to cross down. And then of course, they're gonna run into the traps, which is exactly what we want them to. You know, same thing, kind of all the air traps are very strategically placed in the middle, really just to stop that push from air if it does manage to get in there. Now, the last base that I want to show you guys is actually just to help you out. And this is just a default layout that you can use before you start building any base. Now, I know we have everything down at the bottom and you can kind of start placing it slowly, but there's a lot of people who are very visual and they prefer seeing everything structured like this or just already laid out. And then you're simply moving and adjusting things around. Where I like using this instead of just placing one by one is when I'm trying to create something that I want to be a little bit more flexible. Maybe I want to make multiple adjustments as I'm building. I'm kind of just letting my inspiration lead me. I don't really necessarily have a general idea when I start the base. This is what I'll use. So I like having this as an option because this just gives me a good starting point. You can still use with nothing showing on the screen and then everything's at the bottom. But I know a lot of you guys have actually asked me specifically for this so that you could use it the same way that I do. I still prefer using this. Now, I will admit some of the edges are obviously a little taken, so it does make it a little more difficult to kind of expand some parts of the base. But really, when you're base building, you want to always start with the center. And you generally build out from the center. So, you know, maybe it's your headquarters that's going in there. Maybe, you know, you want to have some anti-air. Maybe, you know, you want some heroes in there. And then you kind of build out from that. And by doing that, you're really not going to run into the sides being an issue. Also, it's just so nice having the walls so you can select a row either direction. And I would argue that that's a better reason why you should use this too, because now you don't have to individually place every single wall segment. You can just drag whether you want a long part or maybe a short part, and then kind of just start putting down wall pieces like that. And this will speed up your build time because really the only way to get good at building is to build more bases, spend more time doing it. And obviously if you can save some time when you're first putting the base together, it's good to go. So let's just quickly review all of them again. So once again, this is Antiair, which the key focal point is having the anti-air in the center with that cluster of sniper towers. And of course, we're trying to bait ground troops into those traps. Then we have box beat, which is really trying to mess up the boom carts and really control the pathing of the ground troops, because you would think, oh, this seems like a really open base, right? I'm just going to walk right through the center, maybe from the top down. Doesn't quite work like that, the pathing. And then we have center of attention, which is really, once again, to mess with people when it comes to the pathing and them not really predicting it properly. And then, of course, getting them into that center compartment where all hell essentially breaks loose. Okay, thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, do me a favor. It takes 2 seconds to hit that button. It really helps us out a lot. And then, of course, smash that like button so we can get this content out to more people. See you on the next video. Cheers.